Good evening, everyone. I, Ricardo Macedo, the Chair of the San Ysidro School District Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. I would like to ask all members of the committee to mute their devices at this time. Committee members and the public shall participate in this meeting via teleconference. The public may view this meeting by accessing the YouTube link provided on the agenda. Members of the public are welcome to record this meeting using their own personal devices. The district will also make an audio recording available upon request to the district office. Prior to roll call, I would like to make clear for the record of this meeting, and it shall be reflected in the minutes, that this meeting is conducted pursuant to Assembly Bill number 136, Resolution number 21/22-0026. At this time, I would like to ask Ms. Marilyn Adrianson to conduct the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will now conduct the roll call, starting with Mr. Kenneth Johnson. Mr. Johnson is absent at this time. Mr. Manuel Lopez Jr.
Here.
Mr. Larry Rodriguez.
Present.
Mrs. McKerney.
Present.
And Mr. Macedo.
Present.
We are showing 4 members present and 1 absent at this time.
To confirm, we do have a quorum, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Before we begin and moving on to the next item, I would like to request each committee member to respond to the following questions. And I'll start off with Ms. McKerney. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Were you able to hear our proceedings on this end until now?
Yes, I have been able to.
Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
Yes, I do.
Thank you so much. Larry, can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Were you able to hear our proceedings on this end until now?
Yes.
And do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. Mr. Manuel, can you hear me well?
Yes,
Were you able to hear our proceedings on this end until now?
yes,
Do you have a copy of the agenda?
yes, I do.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate your patience. Moving on to item number 3, we're going to do the flag salute. And I would like to start now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. I'm sorry. I pledge allegiance. I'm going to start all over. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Next item up is the item number 4. This would be the approval of the agenda. I will now ask each committee member if they have any corrections, additions, or changes to the agenda for this item. I will start off with Ms. McKerney. Do you have any changes, additions to the agenda?
I do not. Thank you.
Mr. Larry Rodriguez, any changes, additions to the agenda?
No, I do not.
Okay. Mr. Manuel Lopez, any changes, additions to the agenda?
No, I don't.
Okay. At this time, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Gloria McKerney makes a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Larry seconds.
Okay. Ms. Adrianson, would you do a roll call for the vote?
Yes, calling for the roll call vote with agenda number 4, agenda, starting with Mrs. McKerney.
Yes.
Mr. Larry Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Manuel Lopez Jr.
Yes,
and Mr. Ricardo Macedo.
Yes.
Mr. Macedo, the vote passes 4-0.
Excellent. Next item, Mr. Mata, are there any public comments via email or telephonic at this time?
Oh, couldn't hear you, Mr.
On
Malta.
mute. So there's no public comment at this time, is that correct? Okay. For whatever reason, I think we're having some issues hearing you, your audio.
Yes, Mr. Chairperson, there is no public comment at this time.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we have no public comment. I'm sorry. Maybe I wasn't connected all the way here. But
No
no
worries.
public comment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Moving on to item number 6, election of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee officers. Ms. Adrianson, we'll hand it off to you. Are there any changes to the Bond Oversight Committee at this time?
Any changes? Are
As
we-
far as who would be, anybody, as far as the people that have left, as for the chairperson or vice chair? Anything to do with that? Any
No,
other
not at-
changes? No.
No, not at this time.
Okay.
So you want to go ahead and move on to the election of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee officers. So
Yes.
we'll start with the election of the chairperson.
Mhm.
Do we have any nominations for the committee chair?
I can remain for the next round if we don't have anybody else that would like to step up.
I nominate Ricardo.
All right. Do you have a motion to the nomination of Mr. Macedo as committee chair?
I also move to nominate him as committee chair.
And do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Are there any nominations? Are there any more nominations for committee chair? No? Okay. Mr. Macedo, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Thank you. Now it's time for open for discussion.
Mhm.
Any discussion? No? Okay.
No.
I will now conduct a roll call vote. Starting with Mrs. McCurney,
Yes.
Mr. Larry Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Manuel Lopez Jr., Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Oh, yes, okay. And Mr. Macedo.
Yes.
Thank you. The vote passes 4-0.
If you'd like to continue with the election of vice chair.
Oh, okay. Do we have a nomination for the vice chair?
I nominate Gloria.
So who would, a motion?
She's willing to accept.
Yes, I am. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you. Do we have a
Thank-
motion for
I'm-
Mrs. McCurney as the vice chair?
I move to nominate Gloria for
Thank you.
vice chair.
And do we have a second?
I'll second that. Ms.
Okay,
Ricardo.
thank you so much. I will now conduct the roll call vote, starting with Mrs. McCurney.
Yes.
Mr. Larry Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Manuel Lopez Jr.,
Yes.
thank you, and Mr. Ricardo Macedo.
Yes.
Thank you. The vote passes 4-0.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
both.
Moving on
Thank
to
you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Item number 7, Ms. Adrianson, this is for information purposes.
Just wanted to update the committee, Bond Oversight Committee, on the members and the available vacancies. Our bylaws state that that our Bond Oversight Committee consists of 7 members. We currently have 5 members, positions represented and filled. We are still looking for, we have 2 vacancies. One member shall be the parent or guardian of a child enrolled in the district. And a second vacancy, 1 member shall be a parent or guardian of a child enrolled in the district and active in a parent-teacher organization such as the Parent-Teacher Association or School Site Council. So we currently have 2 vacancies, but we're actively advertising and recruiting the parents that fall within the requirements. We were able to secure the community members at large representative, and we're bringing back Mr. Kenneth Johnson to the Bond Oversight Committee. The governing board approved Mr. Johnson's appointment on January 28th, 2022. I'm sorry, when did they, for his term to serve from January 28th, 2022 to 2024. It's an information item.
Thank you so much, Ms. Adrianson.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions and as far as for the committee members of Ms. Adrianson?
I do have one for the district. I'm just curious what kind of outreach has been done. I know I originally saw it in the Union Tribune. You guys did a good job of doing outreach relative to previous administrations, the district administrations. I'm just kind of curious what kind of outreach. I know it's not as open-ended as when you were putting the committee together, and now it's really focused on those 2 positions there. So I'm just wondering what's being done to try and fill those positions.
We actually reached out to management staff for their recommendations for parents. We've met with certain individuals in our parent groups requesting for a parent representative. So we have some parents who are interested. We're just waiting for them to submit applications.
Very good. And I think I'll speak for myself and the others can speak for themselves, but if they have any questions or would like feedback about what it's like participating on the committee, feel free to share my email.
Oh, thank you.
My district email with them, and I'll do the best I can to be a recruiter.
Thank you so much.
Any
And
other
you
questions?
can also share my email so that I can speak to them too.
Oh,
Mhm.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Adrianson? Okay, hearing none. We're going to move on to now item number 8. I'm going to pass it along to Mr. Paolo Acevedo and Tom Silva to provide us the revised update long-term master plan facility.
Thank you very much, board members. Paulo Azevedo, Director of Maintenance Operations, Transportation and Facilities, alongside with Tom Silva, our construction project manager, here to discuss what the governing board meeting approved on March 10th, 2022 for some changes we're doing to the implementation plan. Next slide. All right, so on July 15th, 2021, this was the plan that was approved by the board that we are on track to start working on throughout the I guess for the bond work throughout the district. As you can see here, I don't know who's controlling this. Can you hit the space bar? You'll see all these here that are popping up. They're all being moved forward to the first increment plan. So you'll see all the changes, all the movements that we have going on throughout the district to help fit the needs of what we're trying to do within the district, especially with the new universal TK program that's coming out. So you can see the La Mirada wing and the La Mirada remodel will be moving over to the first column. That's to help with the universal TK. Central kitchen and the annex building will be moving over to the third column to start working on some more projects at the buyer lot and the modernization of Sims, and we'll be moving over to the second column. You'll also notice the OVH and the VDM new wings will also be moving over to the first column. And we do have some furniture needs with some movement throughout the district, so moving some grades around. That'll be also shifting over to the new column. Next slide. So this is what it's going to look like today. And this, we just want to present this to the Bond Oversight Committee so they kind of review and see the changes that we're doing to start making improvements throughout the district. Next slide, Mr. Silva. Mr. Silva may be on mute. Oh, yeah, he's
Thank
not
you, Mr.
here.
Acevedo.
All right, I will
Apparently.
continue.
No, not on mute.
Oh, there you are. Okay, go for it, sir.
No. No, I'm not on mute. Sorry. It does say my internet's unstable. I don't know why. As Mr. Acevedo said, we moved some things forward to accommodate some shifting educational priorities, and one of the biggest ones is that the Universal TK program is being rolled out, and we can no longer hold classroom in portable classrooms. So we're going to have to move them over. So that puts a lot of pressure on us to move that on out. Plus, I believe we have some extremely high pressure with enrollment growth happening in Ocean View Hills. So we want to take the 6th grade class and move it on over to what was originally designed as a preschool classroom wing up in Vista Del Mar, which will be the new 6th grade wing up there, complete with the classrooms they need and possibly a STEM outdoor classroom and some other things. And then also, of course, San Ysidro Middle School is a very big, major project. We'd like to get that rolling out as soon as we can for the planning, which always was in phase 1, and then move, or increment 1, and then moving right into, once the planning gets to a point where we're in and out of DSA and we've got a contractor, we'd be able to move on getting San Ysidro Middle School redone. One of the other things that we really want to point out on this slide is on the left-hand side, we've got the financial components. When we had the first sale, Series A, and after the COPS was paid off and other obligations met, we had about just under $20 million worth of, it was $19.9 million left over remaining in Props UNT proceeds. Since that time, we've received $6.2 million in reimbursement money from Smythe Elementary and La Mirada Elementary modernization projects. Those were turned in the States roughly 2008, 2009 in that era. And they did finally get approved by the allocation board when the money came up, and the district received cash in hand. So we're adding that to our pot of money of cash on hand. Mr. Acevedo has worked closely with the consultants he's dealing with on the AB 841 projects, which is really the air conditioning and plumbing grants that are coming out of the state. So we've got just under $500,000 in that to deal with. And then I mentioned the COPS refund that was done with the Series A money. Well, in that refund, Maryland was able to, Ms. Adjournment, I'm sorry, was able to leave a balance of about $4 million that we could use for as-needed projects. And Mr. Acevedo and I have been looking at that very closely. Not only is there time limit to spend on it, but we've got a lot of quick start projects that we can get right off going. They don't require a whole lot or no DSA, Division of State Architect permits. Things like playgrounds, beautification of the sites, looking at replacing asphalt that's in dire need of either slurry seal or some other stuff. So we're working right now on putting something together to bring back to our board in April with a plan of attack and actually a lot of meat on it. And so that's the good news is we've got, said $30 million that we can play with to get things started right off the bat. And what's the next slide, please? I believe next slide, Miguel or somebody. Okay, and just to recap what we said earlier, the sensitive higher, back up. Basically recapping, San Ysidro Middle School is a high priority need for us, Vista Del Mar, and the Child Development Center, moving it over from where it is to La Mirada School. So Mr. Acevedo and I will be available for questions or anything else.
I have a couple.
Yeah, start.
Start off.
You go ahead, Larry.
If you could go back maybe 2 slides, I think it was. Right here. No, go forward. The, no,
There you
with
go.
the,
That's one, financial elements.
yeah, this one and the educational. I live in a world where we use a lot of acronyms as well. I'm unfamiliar with what TK means. If somebody could translate for me.
Transitional kindergarten. Basically, it's 4-year-olds going into an early kindergarten movement. It started about maybe 6 or 7 years ago. More than that, but I mean, it's really gained steam. Whereas preschool was always up to 5, and then kindergarten, including 4, and then kindergarten starting at 5. Transitional kindergarten, and I'm sorry, I should have said something there. Transitional kindergarten is starting a year earlier. There's been a lot of good study as to how that's beneficial to students.
Got it. And then you mentioned the quick start projects.
Yes, sir.
So how does that work? I'm assuming you have contractors already under contract that would take those on as they are,
That's a very good question, Paulo, if you don't mind me answering that.
No, please.
There are a lot of things, like give you an example on the playgrounds. It's possible that we can order the equipment on currently approved bids, either by the state, which they call the CMAS, which is the California Multiple Awards Schedule, where the state of California comes up with a whole armload of projects that are furniture and equipment, paper, shade structures, playground equipment, things like that, that a district can buy material things from. We can actually buy a place that then we would have to bid for the actual construction and delivery of getting it installed. We've done quite a bit of that in San Ysidro in the past years. That helps us expedite it, or we as a district put out a bid of our own on the street for doing the same thing. And so, we haven't bid anything, but those are things that we can do right away.
Are there certain dollar
Our
thresholds?
biggest challenge, to be honest with you right now, I'm sorry?
That's a good point. I'll probably ask a question about that one as well. But are there certain dollar thresholds that you have to comply with doing those projects? Or the point of my question is I just want to make sure that the district is compliant with the public contracting code relative to school districts, and that, somebody gets a job, somebody loses, somebody throws a fit, protests.
Right.
Now you end up spending more time dealing with that, and you can't take care of the the infrastructure or help the kids.
There are thresholds I'm going to be talking about the labor and material contracts for public works. And so that would be our typical design, bid, build, or other type of approach. And so under public contract code, the bid limit is $15,000. Anything above $15,000 labor and material, we have to publicly bid, put together a thing. And right now we're doing a new district office generator, and that was well over that. So we publicly bid that. We took care of it. We made sure we were able to get it moving. So that's an example. The district is also a member. The acronym is CUPCA, but the actual phrase, and this is part of the public contract code also, it's alternative method that increases that bid limit provided we are doing certain things, and the district's already done that. And that's the California Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act. And basically what it means is if we follow a set procedure where we can follow where the money is flowing from fund to expenditure, object, code, and the whole bit, then we could use that particular measure. CUPCA has been around since the 70s and 80s, but it wasn't until California schools from Department of Ed on down adopted the account code structure that we have right now that we're able to really follow the public accounting records that we need to do to make that work. Before that time, we would have had to set up our own systems. And so around 98, 99, we were able to say, oh, good, now we can do this. So we are a CUPCA district now. To answer directly to your question, informal bids, which means Paolo and I could pick up a phone and call 3 contractors on a phone and say, hey, just give me power for this transformer or whatever else. Informal bids of $60 $60,000 or less can be a phone call. $60,000 to $200,000, it's a it's still informal bid, but we have to put together written specs, written diagrams. So it's not just me calling 3 of you and saying, hey, give me a price quote. You're all getting plans and specs, and I have to advertise that in certain very specific trade magazines so that it's open for the rest of the world. Plus, we have a list of contractors that have worked with the district that we have to contact and say, do you want a piece of this? And they can contact us back. And then that's up to $200,000 under. We do intend on using that because really what it means for us, for all of us, the district and you guys, we're following the public contract code. If you recall the FICMAT study that was done quite a few years ago that we all got our hands slapped on, it's all in complete compliance with that. But on a practical matter, we can trim about maybe 3 to 4 months off the process of procurement. And then, of course, anything above $200,000 is a formal bid.
Got it.
So
Appreciate it. And you were about to touch on one other thing, which kind of transcends this business environment. It's a lot of them. And it's like just the general availability of labor to come and perform those projects. Has that been very challenging?
correct. Are you asking me, is it very challenging?
Yeah. I mean, even though all those stars line up with the procurement process, getting
Right.
people to perform, it's like, are they available or,
It really, that's a good question, and it really depends. The answer is it depends on the time of year that we're bidding, when we're going out. If it's a time like, right now, it's really tough because everybody is doing work for summertime. And
that's where I was
all school
going. I
districts-
suspect you're competing against other districts.
Yes, correct. And so we're going to keep a very close eye on the calendar, what's out there. Sometimes they're better. Like, for instance, I have another client where I was doing roofing bids back in November, December, because I knew darn well that right now it'd be a horse race, and I'm probably paying 30% more. So it's just we have to keep an eye on that. The biggest challenge right now, to be honest with you, is the pandemic, ports shutting down, some places not really opening. Things are loosening up right now, but it's really caused havoc in the construction world all over, up and down, the spectrum. Costs have shot through the roof. Delays, I know on one job I'm doing, I ordered toilets. It's a preschool project up near Julian. I ordered toilets back in February. We just got them right before December. It's just been so. So to answer your question, it really depends on where we are.
I understand. I feel your pain, and I live in that world in my day-to-day existence. So that's where my questions.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Larry. Ms. McCurney, do you have any questions?
Yes, the reimbursement for 6.2 million from the state, is that due to the fact that we now have to have TK?
No, actually, we participated. The state of California has the school facilities program, SFP it's called, and that is actually a matching. Statewide, we've been all voting for these statewide bonds, school bond for 1.2 million, billion, whatever. It's been going on since 1987. The state of California's had school bonds on the ballot, and what that money really is for is to be a partner with school districts who qualify, and if they're eligible, and the eligibility is you have to have a certain level of overcrowding for new construction, or for modernization, buildings that are over 25 years old or portables over 20 years old. And so when a district is going through that, and we've used this quite a bit in San Ysidro, over the years, the prior program, we've used the state program. Part of my job and Mr. Acevedo's job is that if we're doing something that looks like it's eligible for state funding, we apply for it. We put everything in there. And so basically the reimbursement is, we've already paid for Smythe and La Mirada when we did the last modernization. Our matching share for state money was 40%, and they give us 60%. We've more than paid everything because the state was basically so oversubscribed in that program. It took them almost 9 years to get to our funding. So really it's a reimbursement of something we've already done.
Fabulous, and thank you for putting in to get the reimbursement.
Of course.
How about then, is the TK going to give the schools money to, is the state of California going to give schools money for the TK?
Yes, we are waiting for the application for this, the state facilities TK grant application. We're just waiting on,
Terrific.
yes, and we will apply for that. We're just waiting for it.
And
Wonderful.
we have also applied for one additional grant for $250,000
Yep.
today, actually. So hopefully we get some of those funds.
That's great. Thank you for doing that.
What Ms. Adrianson is referring to is waiting for the application. The state does have an application on their website. It's just not activated. It used to be the old full day kindergarten program, and then the state turned it off about 1.5 years ago because they knew they were rolling out TK. And so once that gets it, then we can access that, fill out. It's a lot of online stuff that we need to do. And we're poised and ready, us along with about 1,100 others.
School districts, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Ms. McCurney?
No, thank you so much.
No problem. Manuel, would you have any questions?
Yeah,
School
bear with
districts.
me because I haven't been here in a while.
Yeah.
Mr. Acevedo, so you're saying that TK program is going to be at La Mirada, right?
Correct.
So now, the one at Smythe, what's going to happen with that?
No plans have been decided yet for that land.
So
At
just
this time.
we're gonna wait to see what happens.
At this time, yes.
Okay. Second question. Working with construction and companies and all that, I think I see a lot is that some of these guys that come in to get the bid. Is there any way you guys can add or just think about when they come up? Sometimes they tore up the driveways, the parking lots, and sometimes they don't cover that. I know the city. I got a big fight with the city about that. When they contract these people to come and work on certain things, like where I live, they worked on the park, but they tore up the street, and the city was supposed to take care of it, but they took forever. Anyway, you can attach that to your bid to say if they tear up anything that's around the school, just the school, the parking lot, the driveway, or something, that they can fix that or replenish it.
Yeah, Tom, I don't think that's a problem.
Well,
We can add that to the scope of work, that any damages they make, they repair.
Yeah, but sometimes you
damages
do
that-
not the street, but they don't realize how
Well-
much they do damage to the parking lot. So the
Yeah.
parents come in, potholes and all that stuff.
When I'll use Willow School as example. When
Okay.
if you remember Willow, the old school had a lot of portables and very short. And there was that
Right.
the back end that went over towards Kmart and stuff. Well, when we did that school, we knew that we were going to be tearing up a lot of Willow Road. We had to put in some improvements. We actually, I put in a grant when I did that one for the district for safe routes to school money, which allowed me to add in some sidewalks and other improvements. So in that particular case, we were able to say, we're going to go ahead and do almost that whole half road segment in front of Willow School, a little bit toward the apartment complex, because we knew we were getting some more coax cable and other kinds of things there. To the extent that we could tie it to the project, we could put it in the bid. Remember, we're using public school money that we want to go towards the classrooms and not for other agencies' improvements. When we did Ocean View Hills School, we didn't have as much damage to Ocean View Hills Boulevard, but the contractor was required any damage that they did, even if it's, I don't want to say normal wear and tear, but unusual wear and tear on the roads, they have to go back and fix that.
Yeah, because Willow, yeah, I see the crossing and all that. But like you said, that one between the apartments and the school, that one road, that's still tore up.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's why I say sometimes I go through a lot through all this sanitation because you see a little guy with a little cart, that's me. But usually I see the roads and I take pictures, send it to the city. I know they don't like me doing that, but people fall. People mess up their cars. People get hurt. So, yeah, if you guys could just look into that that'd be great. So the parents or even the kids never know.
Mhm.
To be honest with you, one of the other challenges we have is that when we go do work like this, the cities and county will often treat a school district like another developer, and they will try to put upon us improvements that go way beyond our scope. And example I'll give you on that is over by East Lake High School, way back in the 80s and 90s when we were building that school. That was one of my projects. The city of Chula Vista wanted us to build East Lake Parkway from the corner of Telegraph Canyon Road all the way up to where in front of the school and beyond. And it took us almost 8 or 9 months. We said, no, we will do reasonable improvements, sidewalk, curb and gutter that our kids will use, and maybe some lighting in there, but not the whole road. We can't justify taking our tax money, school, we're all accountable to the taxpayers. So that's the kind of negotiations that go on back and forth. I think it makes our job fun, to be honest with you.
All right, that's all I got.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, I don't have any questions. They were all very eloquently asked by Larry and Ms. McCurney. So you guys covered all that stuff that I wanted to ask. So if there are no further questions, I think we'll move on to item number 9. Thank you again, Mr. Acevedo and Mr. Silva, for your presentation.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Moving on to item number 9, it's the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on October 14th, 2021. I'll now ask if there's any motion to approve.
Motion.
Excellent. Second was McCurney.
Yeah.
Ms. Adrianson, would you do roll call?
Yes, calling for the roll call vote, starting with Mrs. McCurney.
Yes.
Mr. Larry Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Manuel Lopez Jr.,
Yes.
and Mr. Ricardo Macedo.
Yes.
Mr. Macedo, the vote passes 4-0.
Thank you so much, Ms. Adrianson. Moving on to the expenditure report. You want to continue that, Ms. Adrianson?
Yes, I'm just going to provide the Bond Oversight Committee members with a quick update on the expenditure report, which is as of, we'll start with, it's as of March 14th, 2022. We will start with the Measure T overview. As you recall, we did under Series A, we were able to sell $15,830,000 in bonds. We paid off the 2017 COPS with the first Series A, and the remaining in the amount of $15,362,416, and the difference went towards the delivery expenses. Next slide. So here's a recap, a summary of Measure T, and now it currently has a balance of 0 as of March 14th. So the entire Series A paid off the 2017 COPS. The next one is a summary of Measure U. It's an overview. We were able to sell under Series A $20 million in bonds. We currently have a balance of just a little bit over 20 million. The overage has to do with the interest. So we have not spent minimal expenditures under Measure U. Here's the summary and the project expenses of $52,500. This was to generate our long-range master facility plan with WLC Architects, Jim DiCamillo. Proposition C, this is a very old one from 1997, the original GEO bond. And these are the various series, A through G, I believe. So on the next slide, it shows the various series and the dollar amounts. And you can see we did the refunding of which brought us measures T and U in the amount of $108,487,390. And that's how measures T and U make up that amount. This is the summary for Proposition C, and we have fully expended the Proposition C, and we now have a zero balance. But the expenditures listed there of just a little bit over $8,000 it has to do with concrete with what's the name of the vendor? RCG Construction, and we did some concrete at the school sites just to use up the remaining balance of Proposition C. And I think that's the last slide.
It is.
Do you have any questions?
Sure. I'd like to go down and I'll start off with Ms. McCurney. Would you happen to have any questions for Ms.
No, I
Adrianson?
do not. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Larry Rodriguez, any questions for Ms. Adrianson?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Manuel Lopez Jr., any questions?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And from my part, no questions on this item, but for my benefit, and I think for the benefit of the committee, when would we start to see significant projects to be started? And for the life of me, I know we've been told before, but I just can't recall. And I just want to make sure that we're just at least tracking to when we would expect to start seeing some expense reports coming in and matching those up with the budget.
I believe in the next year, in the next 12 months, we'll see more expenditures under measures Measure U. We anticipate selling Series B in 2023.
Okay.
So that's the second increment on the implementation plan.
Ms. Adrianson, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do we need to take a vote on this, on the expenditure presentation as so far?
No, it's an information item.
Information only. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Next item up would be number 11. It's going to be the schedule for, it's going to be the revised for 21-22.
The meeting schedule for 21-22, we have a slight revision. We're asking the Bond Oversight Committee to approve the revised schedule. Has to do with the revision May 19, 2022, revised to May 12, 2022. There's a conflict in our schedule with the governing board meeting.
Thank you for that. Can I have a motion, or does anybody have any questions regarding the change now that Ms. Adrianson has provided the reason why? Hearing none, do you have a motion to approve the change in schedule?
This Larry, I move to accept the change.
Okay.
I
And
second.
Manuel seconds. Ms. Adrianson, would you do roll call on the vote, please?
Yes, calling for the roll call vote for agenda number 11, meeting schedule for 21-22 revised, starting with Mrs. McCurney.
Yes.
Mr. Larry Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Manuel Lopez Jr.,
Yes.
and Mr. Ricardo Macedo.
Yes.
Mr. Macedo, the vote passes 4-0.
Thank you so much. Now moving on to item number 12, future agenda item request. Is it Mr. Dorwood? Do you have any comments regarding the future agenda item requests?
No comments. This is just always on here for the committee's opportunity to request any additional information or any specific items it might like to see on the next meeting. Clearly, you'll have some business to do with your annual report and some other things at the next meeting. But if there's anything else the committee would like, this is your opportunity to make those requests and approve them as a committee.
Thank you for that update. And as Mr. Dorwood said, are there any items that one of our committee members would like to add to the future agenda? And I'd like to just go through the roll call here. Ms. McKerney, would you like to add any item for the next committee meeting?
Just as you said, we would like to see progress in all the work that needs to be done. And since we have 20 million that apparently have not been touched yet, when are we going to start seeing work on the schools?
Okay. So if I hear you correctly, Ms. McKerney, you'd like to see an item to update the committee on any proposed or future construction progress.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Larry Rodriguez, any item that you'd like to add for the next meeting?
No, I was going to support Ms. McKerney's. That was my question, so nothing else.
No problem. Mr. Manuel Lopez Jr., any item that you'd like to add or see in the next agenda?
No, pretty much. I would like to sit down with Mr. Acevedo one of these days, have an appointment. Just kind of talk about some ideas I got. That's about it.
All right. And I actually support Ms. McKerney's request to just provide us with an update on that. Hearing that, do we need to vote to have this item?
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Yes, a motion.
Yes, we do. Can I have a motion to have an update? Was that Manuel? Manuel Lopez Jr.
Seconded.
And Ms. McKerney seconds it. Could you do a roll call, Ms. Adrianson?
Yes, calling for the roll call vote for agenda number 12, future agenda item requests, starting with Mrs. McKerney.
Yes.
Mr. Larry Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Manuel Lopez Jr.
Yes.
and Mr. Macedo.
Yes.
Mr. Macedo, vote passes 4-0.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And not to be outdone, our last item for motion to approve of the adjournment of the meeting.
Motion.
That Mr. Manuel Lopez Jr. motion to adjourn the meeting at 6:47 p.m. And I have a second.
Second, Mrs. McKerney.
All right. Roll call, please, on the vote.
Calling for the roll call vote, agenda number 13, adjournment, starting with Mrs. McKerney.
Yes.
Mr. Larry Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Lopez Jr.
Yes.
and Mr. Macedo.
Yes.
Mr. Macedo, vote passes 4-0.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you. We appreciate your time. I know I do, and I know the school district does.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your continued participation, and we will see you at the next meeting. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Thank you. Happy
Good
St.
night, everybody.